All right. Well, this is Amanda with WVGamers, and I'm sitting down this evening speaking with Reptoid Games about Fire Tonight. Can I get your name?
Hi, Amanda. My name is Simon Paquette, and I'm the head of Reptoid Games here in Toronto, Canada.
Awesome. Well, can you tell us a little bit about the history of the company Reptoid Games, and how it was created?
Yeah, for sure. So my background is working in television as an animator, actually, of all things, years ago. And in 2015, I broke out from that and started Reptoid Games with a friend of mine who had gotten into gaming and programming specifically. So with my art background in television and his background in games, um, that's how Reptoid Games came to be. And we're really fortunate in here in Canada that there's a lot of government funding available that you can apply for creative endeavors, specifically interactive digital media. And so we were able to quite early on pitch a prototype project and get a bit of funding to get us off the ground for our first project, which was Fossil Hunters. So that game launched in 2018. And right around the time that we launched that game, I went to GDC back in the days when we would go to conferences. Um, and That's actually where I met up with Rajan Sabjani, who is the head of Way Down Deep, which is the publisher for our latest game.
Awesome. Well, can you explain a little bit about how you created Fire Tonight and your thought process behind it?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, where I just left off basically. So, I met with Rajan at GDC, and it was kind of just a cold meeting. They have a matchmaking system there where you don't get a lot of information about the person you're meeting, but there was a blurb in his profile just about wanting to make games that are love stories, but not dating simulators. And that intrigued me. And so we met up and just had this really cool chat about sort of the kind of games we wanted to make and emphasizing, characters and experience and uh, sort of nonviolent gaming and just a bunch of cool ideas. So we sort of had a good chat, and then over the following months, we emailed back and forth a bunch of ideas. And one of them that really stuck in our conversations was Fire Tonight. So
Awesome.
Fire Tonight is based on there's a song with the same title, Fire Tonight, by a band called Information Society, which is one of Rajan's lifelong favorite bands. It's this indie band, indie, I think rock band from they were big in the 80s and 90s, and I had never heard of them before, but this was a song that he was really into, and the lyrics for that song are basically where the idea for the story came from. And it all revolves around the idea that there's this fire and there's a couple trying to get to each other in the midst of this fire that's spreading across the city. So I thought that was the sort of the implication in the lyrics. As with a lot of, you know, lyrics and songs, it's open to interpretation. But that was an idea that right away it felt like there was some dynamic tension and the potential for a story there. So um, yeah, and so we started seeing what we could put together.
Awesome. Yeah, when I was doing my research, I found that song, but like I've never heard of it before. So it kind of ties into why the game kind of looks like it's like early '90s, going along with that song, late '80s, early '90s theme.
Yeah, for sure. We actually specifically chose the year 1990 as opposed to a range of years, as that's the year that the album Hack, that the song is a part of, launched. And specifically, this is a time period too where, like, notably for the story, is that this is before the internet and before cell phones, so there's no instant messaging, there's no social media, there's no way for people to contact each other. So this is a big part of the story where they're separated across the town and really hoping that they can meet up.
Yeah, when Brian was also looking into it, that's what he had said, saying the early '90s where cell phones weren't a thing, and you're trying to connect with your loved ones and whatnot. So I like that you threw that in.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like who could have predicted this year, right? And we accidentally made a game that has a lot of themes that are more relevant
Yes, very much so. Especially with the fires now out in the west coast of the U.S. for crying out loud, it's really scary times that we're living in.
And this is something that, I mean, I was aware, obviously, the last couple of years, there's been a lot of like wildfire activity, especially on the West Coast. Um, we're really aware how this is something that it can be really, really scary for a lot of people. And we didn't want to overemphasize that part of the story, but we did want it to feel real and have some sense of urgency. So the vibe of the game, we really want to balance that. There's this urgency of a real serious situation involved, but at the same time, it's not scary or twitchy or life and death stakes kind of for the characters. The idea, so one idea that came up pretty early on is that a lot of love stories often revolve around the beginning of a relationship or the falling in love phase, and this was we wanted to tell a story about two characters who were in an established relationship, at least somewhat, that is then tested by outside forces, and that would be sort of the natural disaster. And then what happens when it's put to the test? Are they going to be there for each other? Can you trust that your partner is coming for you and that they're safe and believing in each other? So it's kind of that story of believing in your partner and supporting each other in a difficult time, more than that your life is in danger specifically.
Right. Like when I was looking into the game, like what popped into my head with the kind of like the crosstown lovers was I don't know if you've ever seen the show Legends of Tomorrow, the first season with Hawk Girl and Hawkman. Like it kind of reminded me of them where they're connected for centuries on end, and they get reincarnated trying to find each other life after life, and it kind of made me think of those two characters reading up on Fire Tonight.
That sounds super cool. I haven't heard of the show.
It's really silly. Like I just started watching it during the whole quarantine and everything, but like just the like that season one with those two kind of reminded me of this game at least.
Yeah, it's fun. And well, this is the kind of thing that I'm hoping that, you know, this is the kind of story that resonates with people. Um, I think there's the potential to resonate in a lot of ways, where anybody who plays this or goes through it is going to be able to draw connections either to their own life or to shows they've watched. Because it, I think it's a very relatable situation now more than ever, with the kind of isolation that everyone's experiencing, that need for human connection and the creativity that people have to go to try and make up for, the circumstances around us.
Yeah. So did any games influence your thought process of creating this game? And if so, like which games kind of gave you the your thought process of creating it?
Yeah, so some of the early influences that came up were Monument Valley for the isometric sort of point of view and the kind of puzzly exploration type movement where you're moving around this puzzle world and rotating the the perspective, the point of view you have, which is also a feature of our game where as you're moving around the city, you have to turn the camera around to see things from different points of view, and that's going to be a part of trying to find the path forward.
Awesome.
And another one is a game called Florence, which is by the same game designer, and that's also a really cool experience, which is very much not your typical game, but it tells a beautiful story of a relationship.
Oh, neat. I'll have to check those two out.
Yeah, and those are both mobile games because earlier in production we had the idea that this might be a mobile game, but then for various reasons we felt like PC would be the way to go instead, and Switch.
Nice. Is there like one thing that you'd like to convey to our audience about the game Fire Tonight?
Thing about the game. So I think that it's a bit of what I was talking about earlier about how we're trying to ride a balance between the urgency of the situation, but this is meant to be. I'd like people to have a sense of reflection going through this in the same way that the characters are sort of left with their own thoughts as they're dealing with their own circumstances, but they're sort of evaluating their own feelings, their own situation, and appreciating each other as they have been put in this situation, and hopefully that players will have that a similar experience, right? Where you can take your time, you can play through this. It's not a very long game, and it doesn't require fast reflexes. And it doesn't really punish you if you don't know where to go or make a wrong choice. So hopefully that, um, yeah, I'm just hoping it's an interesting experience that people can play through and maybe reflect on, how it applies to their own lives.
Yeah. Yeah, especially like just watching the trailer of it. It looks like something like I hate to say it to my speed because I always like my palms start sweating when I have to make like rash decisions and and
Yeah,
different things in other games. So this one looks like it's my type of speed where I'm not gonna like have a panic attack playing it.
yeah. So yeah, we do have some game elements to it, and some stuff where you can play, a little bit more dynamic. We do have one more action-oriented level, but in the end, the consequences are they're sort of trivial consequences. Like you have to, start back at the beginning if you make a mistake. But it's really not like do or die kind of stakes, despite the setting of being surrounded by fires.
Are you still expecting this to come out in first quarter of 2021?
Yeah, that's right. We're going to be doing a simultaneous launch for both PC, Mac, and Nintendo Switch.
Well then, is there anything else that you'd wish to share with our audience that you'd like included into our article?
Yeah, I think right now, I don't think a lot of people know about this, but while PAX Online is on, we have put up a free demo on our Steam page. So people can go there right now and download um, the first level of the game and try it out.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, and obviously they can, yeah, see more information about the game there and wish list it if they're interested, and that would be a big help for us too.
awesome. Why, thank you so much for sitting down with me and doing this little impromptu interview in the current circumstances that we're facing right now.
Yeah, no, it's no trouble. It's works out fine for me. This is sort of the end of my day for my time zone. I'm on the East Coast.
Oh, me too.
Oh, great. So this is yeah, so it's not a bad way to wind down the day.
Yes. Well, enjoy the rest of PAX Online, and I shoot you over an email when I get the article done, just so then you can possibly utilize it for any of your marketing type of stuff.
Absolutely, I'd love that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks, Amanda. It was great chatting with you.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.